EOS Go presents EOS Radio, your first source for everything about the new blockchain Internet of Value. You'll hear from key contributors to EOS, including interviews with Block.one, dApp development teams, and block producers. You'll get community updates and answers to common questions, meetup information, opportunities to get involved in EOS, and much more. We're live every Monday at 6 p.m. EST, and now it's time for your hosts, Kev and Blue Jays, in 3, 2, 1.
Hey, welcome everybody. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, but we made it. We launched the rocket, and we are here. It's 6:05 p.m. Eastern on May 7th. Welcome everybody to EOS Radio number 11. Welcome, Kevin. How are you doing today?
Hey, Blue Jays. Yep, good to see you. Number 11. That was roughly as tough as launching the whole network itself, right?
No.
We're here. We made it. Right on. Almost on time. Thanks, guys, for bearing with us here. Good to see you. EOS Radio number 11. So we have a good show. We have EOS BlockSmith coming on first. And then we have a pre-recorded show or interview with EOS Nairobi from Kenya. And that was a phenomenal interview. It was fun to hear from those guys. I can't wait for you guys to see that. I know I mentioned it last week as well, but EOS will make a huge deal in Nairobi. And also we have OracleChain coming on as well. They have a very interesting suite of products, and they're also running for block producer. And of course, Thomas Cox will be on later, and he's bringing on MOTI with an arbitration discussion. We're going to learn a lot about the arbitration process and about training and everything else. It should be a pretty good show.
Yeah, it's an exciting one. The EOS BlockSmith guys I talked to yesterday, they seem very interesting, and they have a novel concept for us to that they're going to explain on the show. And I'm also looking forward to the arbitration panel. And we also have a guest interviewee. You may know her as Top K-Pop Jenny. She'll be co-hosting with Kevin on the EOS Nairobi record. So that's looking forward to it. So Kev, should we get these guys on? EOS BlockSmith?
Yep, they're on the way here. One moment. They're coming on. Okay. Yeah, and thank you for bringing up Top K-Pop. Of course, she will be a surprise interviewee, but she was awesome with me helping to interview in Nairobi. That was good. Now let's see here. Let's get these guys on the show. Sorry about that, guys. All right, hang on one second. Blue Jays, what did you see this week that was interesting to you? What were some of your thoughts?
I think I detect a little bit more heads down. People just working on drills, getting their networks ready and secure for the launch. So again, it's awesome to see everyone who's working really hard in the background. Yeah, and there's Craig Murray of EOS BlockSmith.
Hey, Craig. Good to see you, Craig. You probably can't quite hear us yet. There he is.
I gotcha. How's it going, guys?
Hey, doing well. Good to meet you.
Good.
Hey, Craig.
Yeah.
Hey, Blue Jays.
And you're with EOS BlockSmith, and where are you based out of?
So we're distributed. Two of our members are here in Oklahoma City, where I'm at, and then a couple of our members are in Oakland, and then we have another in I don't know if it's Menlo Park or Palo Alto, but the south in the Bay, and then we have a member in Phoenix. So I think it's Phoenix. So all over the place.
Nice. And what is your background? You probably know our show format by now. I know I've talked to you many times in Telegram. You do the who, what, where, why, when. There's Shah. Good to meet you, Shah. He's got his Captain America shirt on.
I don't have a cool EOS shirt yet, so I figured I'd just wear one of my superhero shirts.
Hey, Shah.
Gotta love it.
Hey, how are you? Blue Jays.
Blue Jays loves to talk about the latest Avengers movie that came out.
Yeah.
Did you guys see it?
I saw it opening night. Yeah, opening night, man. I was one of those geeks in line to watch it first night, dude.
All right.
But you're actually a Hulk guy, right? You're not Captain America. You're all about the Hulk.
I was deciding between my Hulk T-shirt and my Captain America T-shirt, but I like this one a little better. So
you don't want to scare anybody away. I got you. All right.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we'd love to meet you guys, learn more about you. Craig just talked about you got Oklahoma distributed team. Can we hear more about you guys, EOS BlockSmith?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Craig Murray, and I've been a software engineer for 20 or so years, mostly in video games. Majority of that in C++. And about a year ago, I was hanging out with a mentor of mine named Gary. And Gary said to me, hey, man, well, Gary he's a retired software engineer, so he knows tech. And he said, hey, man, why don't you check out these cryptocurrencies? They're kind of cool. I was like, Bitcoin, which I'd heard about. He's like, well, look at Ethereum. So you can actually write code that runs on this thing, like an application, right? So I'm a software engineer. I'm like, oh, that really sounds cool. All right, so I do the deep dive, and my wife can attest that all my time has gone into blockchain since, right? Mm-hmm. So several months later, I'm talking to Gary again. I'm very excited. I'm like, oh, there's this platform and it does this, and this other platform does that. And he says, yeah, hey man, have you checked out EOS yet? And it's on my list. I'll put it at the top of the list. So I look at EOS, I look into the tech, right? And I see DPoS with massive transaction capacity, and I see public key retrieval, and I see multi-processing and staking for resources and side chains, and holy cow, EOS is so far beyond anything anyone else is doing in terms of their technology. This is really remarkable. So then I start looking at the governance, and I see some of the writings of Dan and Thomas Cox and others, and I see the first blockchain to release with a constitution, which binds us to international third-party arbitration. Like, this is incredible. This is so far beyond anything anyone else is doing in governance. Now I'm really excited, you know. Gary was smart. So then I looked at the community. I joined the Telegram groups, and that really sealed the deal. I'm so blown away to everyone in the community. Thank you all for everything that you're doing. I have never seen, not just in blockchain, but anywhere in my life, the kind of such a huge amount of brilliant people who are operating collaboratively and cooperatively and with courtesy and compassion. And it's just truly remarkable. So at that point, I knew that's it, man. I am going to move my career from video games into EOS somehow. Whether that's, I don't know how, I don't know when, how long it's going to take, whatever it is, I'm going to work in EOS. This is my home now. And the next morning, like when that thought dawned on me and that was it. The next morning I went to my first ever cryptocurrency meetup. And so I get to the meetup, and I've been studying EOS for a couple of months now, and I'm preaching the gospel, right? I am selling EOS. And the meetup happened to be organized by a man named Verbis Counts. Right. So Verbis has 50 years in tech. He was teaching Fortran to the U.S. military in the 70s. He was at Bell Labs in the 80s. Those of you who know your tech history know what that's about. He's been there and done that. And so he bites on the EOS sale. Like, he gets it too. He drinks the Kool-Aid, and wow. And so we become friends, and he invites me out to lunch, and we get to talking as tech nerds do. And he says, hey, I want you to meet my son, Shaheen. We should all three have a conversation. So maybe Shaheen can take the story from there.
Yeah, sure. Well, first, I just want to say thanks, guys, for having us on the show. Longtime listener, excited to be participating for the first time in your video show.
Thanks.
So a little bit about my background. I definitely come to this space from background. I'm a physician by trade, a head and neck surgeon to be specific. Wow. And but I've always been a tech geek, you know, kind of like a superhero geek as well. Like I was telling you earlier, I've always been kind of a tech geek. And so about 5 years ago, 2013, I discovered Bitcoin and blockchain technology, and by it. And I think myself, like most of the people that kind of fall into this space, it was like this rabbit hole that just kept getting deeper and deeper and more expansive. I was kind of reading about blockchain innovations every chance that I could get, every day, in between patients, after surgeries. So I really kind of just fell in love with the technology and the potential it had to really change the world and make the world a better place. And so I kind of started developing this reputation around the hospital amongst my peers that I had this like alter ego. Like in the daytime, I was this, you know, little kind ENT surgeon, and then at night I'd like don my blockchain cape and turn into a blockchain vigilante, the way I was evangelizing all this stuff. And then, yeah, about a year and a half ago, I moved to the Berkeley area, and I was lucky enough to apply and join this organization called Blockchain at Berkeley. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it or heard of it, but it's a student-run organization, but they are doing phenomenal work in terms of blockchain development and research, blockchain education, blockchain consulting. They consult with some huge companies like BMW and Airbus and stuff. And so started getting my hands dirty on some blockchain projects. We had some awesome blockchain conferences, and I started rubbing elbows with the likes of Dao Hong Fei from the Neo platform. Joseph Poon came out and spoke, and we even hosted a little conference for the SEC because they asked us to host a conference so they could talk about their policies on ICOs and stuff like that. So really, I was kind of just diving into the space, and somewhere along that route, I came across the BitShares platform and the Steemit platform and DPoS, and then kind of learned about Dan Larimer. And I still remember watching like the first Dan Larimer video that I saw online, and just being blown away by just his intelligence, and not only like his understanding of where blockchain technology was and what it could do, but what foreseeing, I guess, ahead of what I thought everyone else at the time or in the space was really doing. And so naturally, I was super excited when the EOS platform came out. And then right around the same time, I get a call one day from Dad, and he's like, I just met this guy named Craig Murray at a meetup, and we have an idea. And that's kind of how EOS BlockSmith was born.
Wow.
That's a great story. I was enjoying every second of that from you guys. Thank you. Go ahead there, Blue Jays.
Yeah, it's like the origin story, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
No, that's awesome. So tell us a little bit more about BlockSmith and what you guys are up to and what it's about, and your sort of your concept behind what we were talking about yesterday a little bit. So let the viewers know.
Okay, yeah. So BlockSmith has a little bit different model. To sum it up in a sentence, we are going to take no money from anyone else, and we're going to give no money to anyone else in EOS. So let me break that down a little bit. First, taking no money, right? So we're 100% self-funded, and we're going to stay that way, right? And that the purpose of this is to avoid conflicts of interest, right? So just to sort of give you a small idea, it only takes 7 corrupt block producers to subvert the arbitration system. So let's say you have a huge whale who owns a lot of EOS, and he has a block producer node, and he invests in other nodes, and they create a cabal. And then someone says, you've broken the Constitution. You own too much EOS or something, right? We, the community, create an arbitration case. The arbitrator says, yes, you violated the Constitution. He creates an order and says, we're going to punish these guys and award damages. That transaction goes to the block producers, and 15 of 21 must sign it before that arbitrator's ruling is actually enacted on the chain. So it's very important that large interests don't have financial influence or control over block producers, right? And a lot of other block producers agree with this. But then the second part is potentially more interesting, right? Which is we're going to give no money to anyone else in EOS. That means, primarily, we're going to give no venture capital or donation or other kinds of monies to any DApps or other block producers or et cetera, right? We're going to create a financial firewall around ourselves. So the reason for this, let me give you a couple of different angles on it, right? So first, a couple of guys have a cool idea for a DApp. They create a company, they have a website, they have a prototype. Maybe they're my buddies, or maybe they meet me at a conference and they say, hey, here's our idea, pitch it, fund us. So I give them $1 million worth of EOS. Now, are they going to vote for me? Probably. I've found that when you give people money, they tend to like you. Mm-hmm. Now, is that vote buying? I don't know, maybe. It's certainly, to me at least, a gray area, right? So even if they're not trying to be bad, they're just kind of led to that. You're going to like people when they give you money. So that's sort of one angle. But now let me take another angle. So BlockSmith is going to do full financial disclosures, which means full. You're going to see every penny we have coming in, every penny going out, where we spend it, who owns what, everything. We're going to regularly do that. And then some period, maybe bi-yearly or however often we're able to, we're going to get a third party to come in and audit us, an objective third party, make all of that public, right? So if we are giving $1 million to this DApp, then if we're going to do a financial disclosure, they have to do a full financial disclosure too, right? Because that's where the money's going. So if they don't, then okay, we do a full financial disclosure, and you see Craig Murray makes $100,000 a year from BlockSmith as a salary, but he's also a consultant on DApp guy over here. He makes another $150,000 a year as a consulting fee. He maybe works, maybe doesn't. We don't know. We don't even know that Craig Murray is being paid by these guys because they're not doing a financial disclosure. And equally true when you're taking venture capital. If you're taking money and the guys giving you money are not disclosing their whole business, everything that they're doing, then you don't really know. You don't know where the influence is coming from. It's all a bunch of sort of potential for corruption and collusion and conflicts of interest. So, and now let me give you one third way, right? A third angle at this. Let me ask you a question, Kevin Blue Jays. What is the primary skill set of the members of a block producer group? What are they good at?
Tech stuff, producing blocks.
Tech stuff. They are super nerds. This is a very difficult piece of software. I mean, it's, every block producer group needs at least one rock star level guy, if not more. It's hard to do it well, to do it right, as we are all learning. Takes a lot of skill, a lot of horsepower from the tech geeks. So, and I mean nerds in the most loving way, being one. So that's the skill set. That's what we need as block producers. We need to do the best at that. Now, what is the skill set for taking millions of dollars and finding startup companies to invest that money in? That's called venture capital management. And that's a very specific skill set, right? So if you're going to give your block rewards away to other DApps, for example, you could just, hey, this one's cool, here's some money. That one's cool, here's some money. Woo, everybody gets money, party, block rewards for everyone, But if you're going to do it professionally and seriously, as most block producers would, I hope, you would probably hire a capital management expert who has decades of experience in the networking and knowledge and experience of deploying capital, overseeing that capital, holding companies accountable, someone who understands the industry and is a specialist at capital management, right? So those are two completely different skill sets. And I'm not sure that it makes sense to ask block producers to do both of those extraordinarily well. And so for those reasons, I could probably go on. Those are just a few angles. But for those reasons, right, we're not going to give anyone any money because, it leads to conflicts of interest and it prevents us from doing full financial disclosures. And because we're not venture capital management, we're 6 people on our team now. 4 of them have at least 20 years experience in tech and 2 of them are doctors. So nobody knows how to do that. We'd have to hire someone. And so that's kind of our approach. Now, I know I've talked for a minute. I'm going to go one more step and then I'm going to shut up and let you guys talk for a little bit. The question that this goes to next, usually when we tell people about this, is, well, what are you going to do with all those block rewards, right? Well, yep. Simple answer. We're going to burn them. So I want to address this a little bit because there's a little bit of, I want to make sure everyone understands how this really works. So within the ecosystem, there's essentially 2 forces affecting the token value. That's inflation and deflation. So inflation is when you print more EOS, and that reduces the value of all of the tokens already in people's wallets. So you print more, value goes down. And that's sort of a cost to the network. So in contrast to that, when you burn tokens, you eliminate them from circulation, and it increases the value of all of the other tokens in any wallets in EOS. So, and I'll give you a quick example. So 2 days ago, we learned about Dawn 4, where Dan has proposed a change to the RAM staking mechanism, whereby when you buy and sell RAM, you will be taxed 1% on the purchase and on the sale of your RAM. So that is a revenue source to the chain, and many block producers are very happy about that. Some groups wrote a really cool article talking about how that can offset the block rewards. This was awesome. And what is Block One doing to take that tax and give it to EOS? Well, they're burning it. That's the mechanism that you use. When you want to give the money back to everyone fairly and impartially and completely equitably, you burn it. So that's what we're going to do. We will then be easily vetted by companies because we have no money coming in from outside except from the network. We have no money going out to other organizations. We have our operational costs, salaries and colos and upgrading and hardware and some small travel expenses. We have a healthy but modest profit, which you'll see. And that's pretty much it, right? The tokens that are burned. That's the three things. So that's our approach to it anyway. Now I'll shut up for a little bit.
What is your motive to keep the profit at the minimum, and how are you determining what sort of rate it is that it's modest?
That's a good question. So our rule of thumb is if other block producers that are making similar money to us and also keeping their costs down, internal costs down, not paying people outrageous salaries. But if other people are doing disclosures and they're saying, look, we're giving $3 million to these DApps, we're going to burn a relatively similar amount. We don't know yet. We don't know how fast the network will scale. We don't know what the hardware cost is going to be even in August. Plus, before we burnt any tokens, we will go publicly with some kind of we need we need a capital reserve, obviously, before we do anything. Just because if the token crashes, we don't want to go out of business because we burnt tokens in July, right? We're going to get to that, and we'll lay out exactly how we're going to do that, and we're going to listen to feedback as well. So we can't say, well, profit won't exceed such and such percent. It's premature to even take a guess like that. So we're going to try to do what's right and fair, and give back directly to the ecosystem rather than take that value and use it elsewhere outside the chain, like give it to charity or whatever. We're going to give it to the token holders by burning our excess rewards. Hopefully that answers your question.
Does.
Yeah, to kind of piggyback on that just a little bit, I think there's two ways that block producers are looking at this. One is, hey, we can invest in this ecosystem and grow this ecosystem for everyone by investing in dApps and some of these other projects that they're working on. And I think we're just taking a different approach where we say, hey, look, rather than say, hey, presume a paternalistic kind of point of view and say, hey, we can take the EOS value and do the right things. Trust us with your money, and we'll invest this the right way. We're just saying, well, why don't we just burn the extra tokens, keep the value in the system, and kind of in the most equitable way let the ecosystem kind of grow and thrive in the direction that people and people with initiative want to take. So.
Wow. To me, that sounds awesome. I like the fact that you guys are really taking the fact that a block producer is a utility to heart, yes. Right? And you're making the most of that. And it sounds like that's what you're doing. And you're doing one skill and you're doing it well. And that's what we all want from block producers. That's pretty unique. That's great. Huh.
Yeah. Guys, so can you tell us a little bit about what kind of events you guys got coming up? Do you have anything on the horizon? Anything that we should know about you guys moving forward?
Yeah, I'll jump in on that one. So the biggest thing we're working on right now is we are helping to organize and promote the Tulip Conference that's coming up in June. It is a big blockchain conference, and it's got a huge emphasis on EOS. EOS is kind of highlighted throughout. We're going to have an EOS Dev Camp there. Thomas Cox is coming to speak, and we're also having a block producer summit, essentially an EOS block producer summit. So we're going to have lots of different block producer groups coming to represent exactly kind of what we were talking about today, different viewpoints, their different takes on how they want to contribute to the ecosystem, how they want to practice their block producer business. And so we're really excited to kind of be promoting that and being involved with that. I'm not going to say we're a star in that process. There's a lot of other people contributing to that. We've got EOS 42 is playing a huge role in it, EOS Detroit, EOS Tribe, and some of the EOS SF meetup organizers. But we're kind of playing our part too. And I think I just heard yesterday from Blue Jays that you guys are coming too, so I'm super excited to meet you guys in person. So that'll be awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of a newer development, but we're really pumped up to go meet a lot of you guys. We described it last week. It sounds like a summit, the first EOS summit in some ways.
Yeah, it feels like that, and it's totally going to be like a celebration of the launch of the mainnet. Hopefully, by June 7th, we'll be just throwing down.
Absolutely. Yeah,
we'll also be at we'll also be in Consensus next week. So if anyone is around that area, we'd get some coffee or something. Hit us up.
Cool.
Yeah. So anybody else who's out at Consensus next week, give Craig and Shah a ping. Guys, where can we reach you guys, and where can we find out more?
EOSBlockSmith.io. That's where you start. We do regular Medium postings where we try to sort of present some of our ideas and comment and commentary on things going on in EOS. We believe that while we're not going to give anyone money in EOS, it's very important for us to be very active in the community, to know everything that's going on in EOS, to have an opinion, to state that opinion so that people know where we stand on things. So radical transparency means something to us. We are believers in that. And so we want to try to do that as well as much as we can. So Steam, Medium, Twitter, Telegram. We have a Telegram channel as well. You can join us there. Ask us any questions you got. We're going to do an AMA on one of the Reddit AMAs that's coming up, I think, the 25th of May. So
awesome.
Cool. Good deal. It's really great to meet you guys in person. I know that you have a unique proposition, and actually it sounds pretty interesting. So thank you guys for coming on and really sharing it. And,
thank you for having us. And I want to say before we sign off, you guys have done an extraordinary job. You really have. It's been things are going very well for EOS in my opinion, and you guys are directly responsible for a lot of that. So thank you very, very much.
Also, we mean that.
And we know that there's an arbitration meeting coming later.
Yep.
And so we wanted to say we have a question for Thomas. Are there any rules or regulations being put in place to ensure that arbitrators are not on the payrolls of DApp companies or block producer companies or other interests? And also, are there any rules and regulations about arbitrators having personal investments in EOS or apps or DAX or anything else in the ecosystem?
That's a great question. I've actually I've talked a little bit with a future potential arbitrator, I believe, and there's been that same concern, wondering about conflicting interests, and you guys take a very strong stance on it, and probably, I would think for arbitrators the same would have to be true. So we'll see. Yeah,
I hope so.
Cool.
I thought I thought of a cool character, with your gaming background, Craig, and Shah with your love of Avengers. How about, Thanos? How about Thanios?
Yeah. We've been looking at artists, so we'll have someone mock something up for us.
Right? With that glove and all those diamonds on there. Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You guys already have the guy hitting the hammer on that block. So, yeah.
Yeah, we got our magical blocksmith image, so we'll work on that.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
All right,
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
It was a pleasure having you guys on. See you soon.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good night.
See you guys.
That was cool. It's just such a unique. I like their style. They have kind of the one point they're making, and they're making it really well. They're not trying to be everything all at once, which to me is important. It's like Henry Ford, right? Back when they invented the assembly line. Instead of having everybody build every single car, let's just have one person really specialize on one thing, and they can be great at it. They can do it well, and that's why everything became so efficient. So, hey.
Yeah, they know what they're there for, right? Like you said, it's a unique proposition. Interesting.
We have EOS Nairobi coming up, the pre-recorded show,
yes.
Pre-recorded interview.
You want to intro this, Kev, and then it's quite a long interview, 35 minutes. So we will have a little break in between. That'd be nice.
Yeah, so we will be off the air. You and I, Blue Jays, will take a little break, but the EOS Nairobi interview will play, and we hear from 4 members in Nairobi. We recorded this about a week to a week and a half ago, and it's very interesting because they've completely described how EOS can transform their society in many ways. They also talk about some of the corruption issues it might help deal with, and also ways it will improve merchants' lives and customers and everybody else, mobile payments, everything else. It's exciting. So everybody enjoy this one, I would say.
All right. Without further ado, I'll kick him off. I'll kick it off.
All right. Welcome, guys. My name's Kevin with EOS Go, and thank you, EOS Nairobi, for joining us.
Thank you.
And I'm Jenny, top K-pop. I'm filling in for Blue Jays today. Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, and we are pre-recording this interview with EOS Nairobi because they are a number of hours ahead of us. So what time is it for you guys right now?
It's 9 p.m.
9 p.m.
Yeah.
So that means you're 7 hours ahead of us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you guys can see why we aren't shooting this show live. Otherwise, they'd be up until 1 or 2 in the morning trying to talk to us. So thank you guys very much for making the time to work with us here. And yeah, we're very excited to meet you. So can we learn more about EOS Nairobi and hear about your names and individual goals and aspirations?
Okay.
So I'm Felix. I'm a tech entrepreneur. I'm a co-founder of a company that deals with web and mobile apps. A little background about how I got into blockchain technology. I started hearing about blockchain technology back in 2016, read around the whole place, and then got a book by Melanie Swan, Blockchain Blueprint for the New Economy. And I was so inspired by the book, I actually wrote her an email and I told her I liked the work they're doing at the Institute of Blockchain Studies in New York. And and I told her I would want to, work with her. And she was so gracious. She gave me a job as an affiliate researcher. So as I was doing the research work for the Institute for Blockchain Studies, I learned a lot about the blockchain space. That's how I came across EOS. And I think what inspired me about EOS was Dan Larimer's vision of wanting to secure life, liberty, and property. And from then on, I went for EOS Meetup 1.0 in Nairobi. Ian Grigg was there. I met George. I think he had just come from Ireland at that time. I met Peter. And we started the community, EOS enthusiasts and everyone in Nairobi. So yeah, from then on, it's been an amazing ride, these guys.
Yeah. Great. So I think I go next. My name is Daniel Kimotho. I serve as the community lead here at EOS Nairobi. How I got into this whole blockchain space was quite interesting. I do work with Felix, or rather I did work with Felix in the web and mobile apps company. And so we used to spend a lot of time together. We used to read a lot of books together, and we used to watch a lot of Bloomberg TV together. So I got to get the news from mainstream media on blockchain, but at the time it hadn't sunk in and it hadn't hit how big of a revolution we were in. So when he shared the book by Melanie Swan with me, I really started getting into it. And fortunately enough, we managed to also get in the Institute for Blockchain Studies, and we started our research there. So I was really keen and interested in use cases for blockchain here in Africa. And I started pursuing that and started trying to see which protocols would work best with the different use cases we have here, and what type of dApps we would build here, and what type of solutions we would bring here. So while I was doing all that, I came across EOS. And it was a very fortunate thing that Ian Grigg was here in Nairobi. So he got us into EOS. He got us understanding what EOS is all about, the governance structure, the architecture, and most importantly, he told us about being a block producer. And I think the thing that really inspired me about EOS is that Ian Grigg believed that here in Nairobi, we could actually make a serious block producer candidate. At the time, I didn't believe, but when I was speaking to him, each time we met, he had some really serious confidence in us. And I think that pushed us off the ledge, and it just got us to be in this thing. And we've been investing a lot of time and resources in actually ensuring that we represent this part of the world as a block producer supporting EOS network and the whole ecosystem.
Okay, great. My name is George Mosomi. My background is electrical engineering. Moved into the blockchain space about 3 years ago when I started looking for solutions of settling payments within the energy system ecosystem. So things about peer-to-peer energy transactions, now that a lot of generation is moving from a centralized system, we're moving into decentralized distributed generation where you have the consumers are also producers of electricity. So when I came into that problem, there was an opportunity for, well, at the same time, where energy was moving into a distributed model, we also had the blockchain space coming into distributed ledgers. So the correlation between the two got me really interested in how Bitcoin works and building smart contracts for allowing peer-to-peer settlements. And then now is where EOS comes in, which allows for the integration of all that to a level which is more usable. So I'm really excited to work with the team here. We've had a lot of support from the local developers in Nairobi. Everyone is so interested in the blockchain space, and especially with EOS, because I think this will take us to the next level of actually being able to use apps on the ecosystem, which will bring blockchain to where people can actually interact with it. It won't be an abstract thing; it will be something tangible.
Okay. So my name is Peter Okwara. I'm a student at University of Nairobi. I study electrical engineering. So in EOS Nairobi, so I sort of train people on EOS, that is setting up nodes, doing the C++ tutorials, and also writing the smart contracts and decentralized applications. So how I got into EOS was that a friend of mine, a mentor, John Sam, who runs Meetup Africa, told me to get into the blockchain space, and I didn't know how to write smart contracts. I tried out Rootstock and Ethereum, but they really weren't that in for me. I think it's when we started talking about EOS is when I started getting involved, especially the YouTubers like the Dollar Vigilante, Jeff Barwick, and also Ivan in Tech. I think it's when Ivan did one video on how to set up Don 2, that's when I really got into EOS and started practicing, trying it out. So I've been doing that since December. And then towards February is when there was a meetup at Moringa. It was about Chama Pesa. So a local friend of mine called Michael Kimani, who's also part of Chama Pesa, invited me to do a talk. And that's when I met Ian Grigg and Eva actually. And we talked a lot about EOS, and he asked me about being a blog producer, and yeah, he really encouraged me to become one with a Mac Mini. Nobody says that. Yeah. So, and then also at the time I thought, why don't you have a meetup at EOS Nairobi? So I think at that time I had exams, so I couldn't really run a meetup. So my friend from Meetup Africa, John Sam, I told him the idea. Then Greg was like, yeah, we could do it. Just name the place. So long as on Saturday you can just do it. And that's when I had a first EOS meetup where Ian Grigg was talking about EOS. And then from there, also during the meetings, I also met the other teammates, Daniel and the others. So yeah, that's how I got into EOS. My real reason why I think EOS the thing is because they normally say that Africa is blessed with problems. And I think some of these blockchain solutions can actually solve our problems. Yeah.
Wow. That was inspiring. I also was wondering if Ian brought up the Mac Mini during his time with you guys. Sounds like he did.
Yes, he did.
Of course he did, yes. Well, and a lot of folks know that Ian has this running joke about wanting to run a block producer candidate with Mac Minis. Of course, so you guys are far more serious than that. You guys put out a great introduction post, and you have a nice website. Can you dive in a little more about your technical specifications?
Okay, I think we can let Peter do that for us. He's the one who's in charge of our blog producer and our servers down there at the data center where we host them. And he talks a lot with guys from EOS Nation. I think Dennis is really helpful to us, helping us set up our nodes and join the testnet and do all those things that we need so that we can become real participants in the network. But I'll let Peter talk about the technical specs that we have right now.
Yeah, so we actually have two servers at the moment. We have a local server from a local ISP. It's running 16 GB RAM, 512 GB SSD, and yeah, and we also have a backup one, which is now international. It's a bit low, but we are planning to upgrade it because, installing EOS requires a lot of RAM, at least above 4 GB RAM, and that one has like 1, so it's really, can't get to it, yeah.
Nice. And I know I'm very curious about when it comes to, and a lot of folks in Kenya, they don't fully understand how meaningful blockchain can be for Kenya and for Nairobi. Can you guys also talk a little bit about that as well?
Okay, so I think Kenya is starting to come up as the blockchain capital for Africa. We got a lot of inspiration from our president because around the time when we were getting serious about being a block producer, he announced that he would support blockchain ventures in the country. And with that, he started a blockchain and AI task force that will just look into the matters of what do these developers and people working in this system, in this ecosystem need so that they can be able to participate with the rest of the globe. I think if I can quote him, but not word for word, he said that we have been left out of the other industrial revolutions ever since they started, and we were not going to be left out of this fourth industrial revolution that is being spearheaded by blockchain technology. And I think for that reason, the government is really behind us and really supportive. We've even gotten an opportunity to present some of our teams in front of this blockchain and AI task force that presented the dApps that they were building and some of the things that we would need as support from the government. So on our side, as a country, from the level of government, there's a pretty big understanding and they understand the importance of us participating in the global ecosystem when it comes to blockchain technology. Now, when it comes to other players in the ecosystem, in the country, there's an article that was posted a while back by one of these reputable news agencies. And it says that Kenya is one of the countries with a very huge percentage of its GDP locked in blockchain. I think that shows that there's a lot of people who, it was about 4% of our country's GDP is in blockchain, blockchain currency. So there's a lot of people here who get cryptocurrency and get blockchain technology. And what they're waiting for now is applications that they can actually interact with and use to transact. A big benefit that we have here is an application called M-Pesa. So M-Pesa is run by a very big telco here called Safaricom. And it has been the gateway for us to join the whole blockchain space, because how M-Pesa works is just how cryptocurrency works. You get a message from your phone that has your balance, and you're comfortable with the amount being on your phone, despite you having left your fiat currency in a dingy kiosk. You don't mind the money being left at the dingy kiosk. You're comfortable walking away with a message, and that has been the case for the past 10 years. And M-Pesa has really grown in the country. They have, I think, monthly active users that total more than 20 million monthly active monthly users. That's about half of the country. So a lot of people understand the technology. It's something they've been practicing and interacting with for 10 years. So when we start putting out dApps, it'll be taken up real fast because guys have experience already. And that's for the general population. They're just waiting for stuff they can consume.
So we are really big on education, organizing meetups just to inform people on the importance of blockchain technology and its potential applications in the real world.
Wow, that's awesome. So you were saying that you're really into that type of stuff. What are you guys doing right now? Like, as BPs, what are you guys doing to educate, inform, anything that you're working on?
Okay, I think you wanna go.
Okay, so we divided the community into teams. So there are teams that work on education, there are teams that work in research, there are teams that work on dApps, and there are teams that work to run the block producer. And we even have an art team as of 2 weeks ago that works on crypto art and so on.
And interesting stuff like this came from that art team. I also have one that I wear every day here with me. So this is something that the art team came up with. I think they also have earrings that look like this for the ladies. So the teams are really doing something. So yeah, I'll let him continue.
Yeah. So for the dApp teams, these are basically developers who might be interested in applying blockchain technology in some sector of the economy or something. So we have, for example, like a team that's working on health wealth coin. They're trying to incentivize people to live healthy. So we have a problem of pre-hypertensives in Kenya. So we have about 50% pre-hypertensive. There's a possibility that 50% of the Kenyan population might be pre-hypertensive, and that is a really serious health statistic. So they are trying to incentivize people to live better, and they're using tokens to do that. We also have a research team, and the research team just looks at, what could this technology enable us to do? So part of what we are trying to do now is we are trying to incentivize learning in nomadic communities. And that is a research that we're doing with a local university. They've given us a grant for that because formal education in those settings is not, very important. The environment is quite harsh. So we are trying to incentivize learning in that particular, setting. For the others, the art team, they're doing very interesting things around that. And for the Block Pro team, is just to enable us to be able to run the node and support the network. Yeah. Unless you guys have anything to add.
Well, I think on the art side, the art team has been very, very nice. We've gotten a few propositions from other BPs who've even donated designs to us, and we're doing the same for them. We love one of the things that I've had when I have grown up is that we've always been taught to separate the sciences from the arts, but I love how our art team has integrated the IT and the science with art, and I think it's going to be really interesting things to see in the next few days what they come up with.
And we'll be releasing a set of articles just to talk about the dApps that are coming out of the community. So apart from health and wealth coin, we're also trying to work on a sensors application. We're also trying to work on an application that has to do with health systems and so on and so forth. So there'll be a lot coming out in the next few weeks.
Awesome. Oh, and I also do remember hearing something. You guys were doing some education as well. Am I right on that? Yeah, could you guys tell us a little bit more about that?
Okay, so our education program has been, I think, the core thing that has been putting our community together. So when we were setting up the community, we wanted a place where people fit in, people belong, people do work they love, and people who know what every other person is doing and what every other person loves. And once we got that together, we did a little bit of stats on the people we were bringing into the community. So we have about more than, I think we're getting to about 100 people who work within our community. I think it's almost people who participate in different things and in the things they love. We have that freedom of working on what we love here in the community. And we found out that we had about 30% of the people who had joined our community as developers. And that was at the start. I think right about now, we should be at about close to 40% of the people are developers. And what these guys really wanted was to learn how to build on the blockchain. Developers here are not really interested in the speculation of the currencies going up and down, and they really want to build something, something that can be of value, something that can change lives and bring meaningful impact. So we set up a program. Peter here did a really nice breakdown of of EOS and how it works. And from that, we were able to do a curriculum that we use to teach the developers who are coming on board. So we broke it down into 6 major sections. So the first bit is an introduction into EOS, how to set up the EOS system itself, environment, how to set up the EOS environment. Then the second set of classes is on C++. So we like to start it from the ground up. So guys get to learn the smallest things, variables, and how to write code, what is all the little bits and pieces of C++. And they move that up into the advanced levels. And after they have learned that, then now we go into smart contracts. And now this is where it gets interesting, because we have broken down the classes that we run into cohorts. And each cohort is supposed to build something that eventually comes out as a DApp or as a project, something that can be used out there in the real world. And one of the initial projects that we're doing is the Health Wealth Coin. We'll also be doing a census application by a team that is called Deliberate within the EOS developer community. We'll also be doing a health system that will be moving out, and all these cohorts of developers that now get into doing smart contracts, and after smart contracts, they learn how to interact with the general EOS architecture and everything that is within and around EOS. Then they get to learn how to build it up with beautiful front ends. Then they get to learn how to connect that to mobile, because here in Nairobi we have, or rather Kenya has, it stands at #1, by the way, in mobile data penetration in the world. So mobile is key for some of these apps to be used by people here. I think, that's our plan on education. We are working very closely with a couple of people from EOS Go. There's Katie from EOS Go, who's really keen on education, and she's really supporting. Jeff Daub is also really big on education, and he's really supporting. And also Thomas Cox, he's very big on what we are doing, and he's ready to support in any way that we need support.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's very inspiring. And and paint the picture for us too, like in Nairobi and Kenya and also around the world, what do you guys see blockchain accomplishing and changing, especially when it comes to mobile payments and the economy and everything? What do you guys see?
Okay, so I think I'll start, then I'll leave it to the guys. Coming back to the example that I started with of M-Pesa being a really big application here. M-Pesa in its 10 years has moved 2% of the Kenyan population out of poverty. And it's just a mobile wallet that enables people to transfer money, to move money between one person to another. It allows businesses to receive payments swiftly. And that has really transformed this place. 2% of the population, we are getting close to about 50 million people. That's a whole lot of people who never see poverty ever in their lives. And we believe blockchain is bigger. Blockchain will do far much more than that, because it will enable payments. These are global payments. It will enable people here to do global business. Today, I was talking to a team that wanted to join our community and for us to work with them directly. Their plan is to change how coffee is sold from here in Kenya. Kenya has one of the best coffees in the world. I think when you walk into a Starbucks, you'll see somewhere on that blackboard they've written Kenyan coffee, and it's top dollar. From the little visits I've done out there, I've seen that name, Kenyan coffee, and it really sells well. But the thing is, farmers here don't get commensurate remuneration for the hard work they put in. And this team wants to change that. They want to help guys who love coffee to get the best coffee, and the guys who do the hard work of making that coffee the best to get compensation the way they should. So some of these ideas are coming straight from the population. Guys are really reaching out to us as the community, wanting us to help them build some of these solutions that they have identified. I think that the beauty of our community is that we want to be a platform that supports some of these ideas that come from the population. People who feel that they have an application that can actually do something, can create value, can move people out of poverty. They come to us, and we see how best we can support that. And the first level of us achieving that is through education. You see, when we have competent developers, some of these applications will be developed and they'll move. After you have the skills to develop, the next thing you need is just a business acumen. And I think there's a lot of experience and a lot of nice books on that. So we might not fail on that as well. I'll let the guys chip in on that.
I think for Kenya in the past, we've had a lot of people who are unbanked. And I think blockchain offers a ripe solution for providing banking services to those who are unbanked. And I think once you open people to means of funding projects that they have, even if it means, for example, a small market or a kiosk, or even a big DApp developer who probably wants to scale his project or needs more team members within his project, then blockchain becomes a possible solution to allow not only for fundraising for projects, but also to allow an ecosystem for those projects to exist. So I think once that layer of opening fintech to people who previously might not have had access to finances for their projects creates a whole it's like watering soil to allow plants to grow. Yeah. And I think so for me, because my blockchain concentration has mostly been in the renewable energy sector, I believe that fintech combined with physical renewable energy, that means electricity, allows for penetration of technology to places which have not had that technology in the first place. So that means you are allowing distributed generation, you're allowing people to have transactions between themselves for peer-to-peer energy transactions. And then out of that, you're allowing people to have energy inside of their homes, which allows them to have access to the internet and to electricity as well. So that for me is one of the biggest impacts that I have seen I have seen, and I know the blockchain space will support.
Just to add on that, I'll say that in Kenya we have faced issues such as land issues. Like there's a lot of corruption. You find that a piece of land is sold maybe to 10 people at the same time, and everyone has a title deed claiming the same land. So such things, if that data can be put in a blockchain, I think we will solve that problem. We have other issues like nurses and doctors not being paid. So they have been striking like throughout the year. So I think it's because, again, how the government handles money. I think that can resolve that. Same issue with lecturers. Our public universities, we have had lecturers not been teaching for a while, and I think blockchain again can solve that problem. Also, we have a lot of debt in our country. I think 57% debt, and it's again because of corruption and how funds are managed. And I think blockchain can solve that problem. And also in the energy sector, we have had problems. People complaining about their energy tokens, prices of energy being fluctuated because of the local companies. So I think also, again, blockchain can solve such issues. And just to add on the education sector, I think it's not only developers you're focusing on, we're also trying to be a bit diverse. Like we had talks with Daniel on getting on board some lawyers. And the lawyers are really trying to understand blockchain technology. And since it's a transfer of value from one person to another, there needs to be something like a contract that can come in between and do that. So things like, I think, recurrent smart contracts can really be good, and can also incentivize lawyers to actually tell their clients to come into EOS because they will understand EOS and will prefer it above other blockchains. Yes.
Wow. This is so I have to say I'm really inspired right now, guys. I'm really enjoying this interview. I feel like this is why everyone here is getting into blockchain, and that's why we all believe in EOS, because it's one of the first that can hopefully make all this come true. as Block One talks about delivering on the promises of blockchain, right? So this is, I'm really fascinated with you guys. I think this is wonderful. And I'm starting to understand why Ian made a special trip down to Nairobi, and I'm very happy he did. I mean, a lot of folks know that block producers need to be scattered all around the world, and we definitely need a strong candidate from Africa. So, thank you guys for stepping up. This is, I'm just really excited. So, where can we learn more about you guys? Where can people go to follow you and keep up with your work? What should people know?
So we have a Telegram channel. That's EOS Nairobi. I think at the end of the video, we'll probably share all the links with you so that you can post them for everyone to see. We also have a Twitter handle. That's at EOS Nairobi. It's really active. We engage with a lot of other BPs around the world, trying just to create the synergy around EOS and trying to build a global community with them, in as much as our jurisdictions are quite different. I think beyond that, we'll also be opening other social media accounts as time goes on. There's a Steemit account that will be having all these articles that will be talking about the things we are doing here at Nairobi, our education program. We'll also be sharing our curriculum out there with the people so that they can have a step-by-step guide of how we do things here and how they can learn for themselves on their site. We'll also be posting some things on the Steemit on how some of these smart contracts we are going to do are going to be handled, or rather some sample code we are going to do that there. There's also a GitHub account coming up. We are planning something quite interesting on GitHub. So there's a web development framework that we've been working on. It's called Jabali. We want to open source it so that it's easy for people to build front-end applications that leverage the EOS blockchain without having to really struggle and spend a lot of time building it up, so that we can have very many beautiful interfaces that connect to the blockchain. And the regular average users wouldn't know it's even connected to the blockchain, but they'd use it just the same way they'd use a regular app. So Jabali is coming up. We'll be reaching out to the developer community to help us build it out further because it will be open source. That'll be our community benefit project as we go along, alongside something else that the research team is working on, just to help put into perspective all the different projects being done on the EOS platform. So some of these things will be on our website. That's at eosnairobi.io. We'll have all these links there so that guys who are really interested in participating can join us and help out in the work we're doing here.
That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. I don't know about you, Jenny, but I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
I'm loving this. Thank you guys very much for coming on. Yeah, it's wonderful meeting you guys. And, I can't wait to do like an international summit somewhere and shake your guys' hand and just say thank you for doing all the work that you're doing down there. It's wow. So thanks again, guys.
Speaking of an international summit, now that you've mentioned it, we are inviting the EOS community to bring the November hackathon to Nairobi. From the EOS hackathon website, they have a location for the first hackathon. Then there's London, then there's Australia. But in November, it's supposed to be announced. We want to invite the community to come here in Nairobi. I think there's space. There's other very interested and very enthusiastic developers here who are ready to meet and interact and build things that will go out into the world and build them with people out there in different parts of the world. So I think we're really excited. We hope that Block One is watching this and they'll consider Nairobi as one of the places where this hackathon will be happening. That's the live in-person hackathon. We hope that November is going to be Nairobi for that.
That sounds great to me. Let's, it's the power of the community. Let's all band together. Anyone who's watching, really, let's just go ahead and everybody ask. I mean, I agree completely. It'd be amazing to have a hackathon down there and for everybody to come out and meet you guys. So that's a great idea. I love it. Let's all band together and see if we can make it happen and talk to Block One. So, wow. Thank you, guys. Yeah. So thanks for coming on. And Jenny, do you have any other questions that we've missed?
I don't. Is there any last little tidbits you guys want to give us? You're like, I've talked a lot.
If the guys have anything.
I think I'll say the EOS community has been really helpful, especially in the Telegram. EOS developers, they reply very quickly. And also the testnets, there are several testnets out there which also help other people who are trying to come up with their own testnets, build them up. And yeah, and also add on, I think Block One videos are really inspiring us to at least do something on blockchain. And I'll also add on that in Nairobi, the government at least has been a bit receptive on blockchain technology. There was a task force built by the government headed by former CS Bitang and Demo, and they have really been keen on blockchain technology. Actually, one of the guys actually invited me to do talks on EOS and educate people, do practical, because also for a while people are interested in the trading parts where you buy and sell to make money. Yeah, I think that's what I'll say. Yeah.
Well, this was a pleasure. I loved being able to sit down and talk with you guys, hear all about how life-changing this is to the country you guys are in, and I did also like seeing the real-life applications of the artists. I've seen a lot of digital art going around, but the fact that it was really brought into some jewelry, I mean, I thought that is fabulous. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, guys. Yeah, great to see you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hey, Kev, we're back.
Wow. Yeah, I love talking to Nairobi. That was fun. I mean, you probably heard me get excited there for a little bit, but that was a phenomenal interview. What do you think there, Blue Jays?
Yeah, I got a chance to talk to them too, and that interview was just awesome. It just shows how decentralized we are as a network, and how important is every block producer around the world is going to be, and what it means to them as well too. So that was awesome.
Yeah, I just love the way how they talked about it'll change aspects of their society that we don't even think about, right? I mean, you and I were based in the United States. Things are a little different here. We don't have people selling lands to 10 different people, as they talked about there. So it just was very inspiring to hear all the different use cases that we don't even think about. So,
yeah.
Hello, Mr. Joe.
Hi.
And you're also known as John, right?
Harvey, I believe. Yeah.
Or you, Harvey. Sorry, Harvey.
Yes. Yeah. I'm Harvey.
You, Harvey. Great to meet you. Harvey's with OracleChain. I believe you're the CEO. Is that correct?
Yes.
Great to meet you. Yeah. And we're also waiting for John, of course, is the chief scientist. We met him before. He was on last week's block producer panel. So a lot of folks know him already. Harvey, can you go ahead and give us a brief overview of OracleChain? Let us know how you guys came about.
Okay. So, yeah. Hi, John.
Hey, John. Welcome.
Hi, John.
Hello, Kevin. Hello, Yes.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you again. Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, nice to see you again.
So,
go ahead.
Okay. So hi. Hi, everyone. So it's in the morning in Beijing. So I guess almost of you guys actually in the United States. So nice to meet you guys. And we are actually, I'm Harvey, the CEO of OracleChain, and John is our chief scientist of our group. And OracleChain actually is a group of 20-person engineer based in Beijing. And actually, we started our company about 1 year ago. And actually, our company was inspired actually when we translate the EOS white paper from English to Chinese. And at that time, actually, we get an idea if in the future we can have this very interesting, very powerful smart contract infrastructure. What's the most important things? Actually, at that time, we start several projects in this EOS ecosystem. And right now, we were participating in this EOS blockchain producer, and yeah, that's why we are here. Introduce us to more to the global community.
That's awesome. Harvey, welcome. And I got a little background about you guys yesterday or when we met before, but can you just let our viewers know about OracleChain and what it is that you guys bring to the EOS network, and tell us a little bit more about what kind of stuff that you guys have going on?
Yeah. About 1 year ago, when we start our company, we ask a question for ourselves. So if the EOS can support hundreds of dApps in the future, what's the most important things, what's the most necessary component, and what's the most important things have to be done to support such a supports this kind of ecosystem? And our first answer to that question is our first project, which is called OracleChain. And OracleChain actually designed to provide data service for the smart contract application in the EOS ecosystem. So, for example, when the EOS network is ready for public usage, and OracleChain will provide the first batch of data service. We will provide the price information of the blockchain asset from the exchange. That will be our first batch of the data. And if you want to design some application, smart contract application, you need some information about the price of the asset, blockchain assets, and you can get information from blockchain and from OracleChain. And OracleChain is we provide this data service based on this smart contract. Your smart contract can submit a data required to our submit a data registration. You can tell our smart contract what kinds of data you need and when you need it. And then our smart contract application, our OracleChain, will write down your requirement and provides that information to you when that data is available. So that's our first project, our OracleChain. And that's the first answer. Actually, we regards to what's a necessary component to support hundreds of dApp on EOS in the future. And our second project, so after during we development OracleChain, and we still keep asking, so anything else we can do for this ecosystem? And then we come out to idea about half a year ago. And at that time, we think there is no, for the normal user, actually we need a more convenient way to use smart contract applications. So we started our second project, which is called Pocket EOS. It's an EOS wallet. And right now, in this June, actually we release our test version of the Pocket EOS. So it has two main functions. So the first is an EOS wallet on your phone. And most importantly, its second function is a dApp store, a dApp platform. And actually this product is available for public use. And let me, John, do you have the Android phone on your hand? Maybe you can demonstrate our Pocket EOS.
Pocket EOS. Okay, maybe you can keep on introducing, and I will take the cell phone so everyone can see. Okay.
Sure. So actually, we maintain ourselves. We maintain our EOS testnet, and we running the Pocket EOS because it's a EOS body, right? We running this Pocket EOS on our own testnet, and we even do some measurement about the performance of the EOS test network. So, and right now, actually, we can get based on our own measurement, actually the US testnet can support thousands of transactions per second. And right now we have a product actually running on own US testnet. So John just show you a real interface of our Pocket US. So yeah, this is a live show. We can just demonstrate. Yeah, on our own phone.
Yeah,
it's not free.
Maybe throw it up a little closer to the camera there, John.
Yeah. So maybe you can see this app in an Android system. Yeah, it's our product, Pocket EOS. At first, it's a Pocket on the EOS blockchain. So EOS token and all the token based on the EOS can be listed in the Pocket EOS. It's just like an ordinary digital wallet. But also it has a application store. So the app of the EOS can run on the Pocket EOS. And this product has been in the community test for about 3 months. Yeah, we have prepared this project for a long time. Okay, so Harvey, come on.
Okay, so actually this is our second project. It's a EOS wallet on your mobile phone, and the most important function actually is you can access the smart contract application through Pocket EOS, and we even design our first step and on the Pocket EOS. And if anyone is interested to this one, actually you can go to the www.pocketeos.com to download these applications, and it's running on a EOS test network. So this is our second project for the ecosystem. Our first project is OracleChain. So for the third-party smart contract application developer and provided data service for the smart contract application. Our second project, Pocket EOS, provides this EOS wallet and dApp store. And after we have done these two projects, actually we noticed that the ecosystem need more contributors. We need more dApp developers. We need more engineers involved in this ecosystem. So we would like to organize and share our development experience and knowledge to the developer community. And so about 2 weeks ago, we open source tools actually for the developers. And about so this open source project actually is an open source EOS wallet on your PC side, but its main purpose is not used as a wallet. Its purpose is help the developer can register account and also can see each transaction of your smart contract application between your smart contract application and the EOS account. And let me try to find some picture about this product. So this is how it looks like. So the name of this project is EOS DevHelper, and we just give a presentation last weekend in Shanghai to about 100 of audience in a developer conference, and we just demonstrate how the developer can get access to can have a try to how to develop smart contract application in the EOS ecosystem. And this demonstrate how you can, using these tools, you can push a transaction. You can call a smart contract application and push transaction. And this picture demonstrate how much steps you need to go through to transfer to call our smart contract application, call our token contract, and just transfer some coin from one address, from one account to another account. So there are about 4 steps to just transfer a coin from one account to another account, and the developer can get every details, can have a much better understanding how this contract actually work on. And this is our third project design for our ecosystem. And this is just our first step to provide the open source tools. And recently, maybe in this week or next week, our second open source tools will be released. And that one is designed for help others to have how to measure the performance of the EOS network. Because right now, actually, a lot of persons are quite interested about how the performance of the EOS network will be. And based on our measurement, right now we can get about more than 100,000 of transactions per second. And in the future, we think a lot of developers and the BP candidates from others different countries, they might be also interested to do this kinds of measurement by themselves. So we design open source tools for that purpose. And this will be ready for public use maybe next week. And this is our third efforts for this EOS ecosystem. And right now we are involved in this EOS BP candidates, and we also provide our fourth effort. We just announced a proposal to how to organize the BP reward, and we call it EOS BP-DAO. So actually it's a structure how we are going to spend the reward of our BP if actually we were recognized by the community, and we are going to use this structure, this DAO, this smart contract to management our own fund. So based on this current configuration, half of our BP reward will be used based on according to this DAO infrastructure. We will involve the community to decide how the half of the fund can be used for the best interest of this whole ecosystem. And for example, we will provide some proposal in this DAO and let the community to be involved, and which proposal should be accepted and which proposal can get funded by our DAO. And this is our fourth effort. Actually, we also share this infrastructure to other BP candidates. And right now, some of the BP candidates they are interested to get more information about this mechanism. And we also get more suggestion according to this one, and we are going to actually use this mechanism to manage our own BP reward. And that's the fourth efforts actually we have done in this community. So as we just go through 4 efforts. Most of them are technically related. And actually in the past half year, we also organized 4 meetup in China, especially in 4 main cities in China, in Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, and Chengdu. We organized the blockchain meetup, and we introduced this EOS smart contract ecosystem, how to design smart contract, and to the developer. So every event, we will have more than 100 of developers will come together. We introduce what we have done in the EOS, and we introduce once this EOS actually is available, we might have a very big opportunity, and if anybody is interested in this EOS ecosystem, you should get to know more about it and get hands-on and try some smart contract application design development. So we also have done these kinds of things. And in the future, actually, once this EOS network is ready for use in this June, our project, especially OracleChain and Pocket EOS, will be ready for public usage also, as well as the ready of the main network. And we are looking forward for that day, and hope the community like what we have done, and also hope we can have the chance to do more, to provide more work, open source projects, more code, more idea, and to do more contribution to this community as a BP producer.
Wow, that's just amazing how many tools you guys and everything that you have in your pipeline. I think it's bringing a lot to the community. Thank you guys. Where can we find more information? Kev, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm blown away. This is the first time I don't need to say anything. You guys have so much going on, so much happening. It's wonderful. And there's even something about candy that's been happening. I noticed your Telegram channel is also very popular as well. Can you explain that briefly?
Yeah. Actually, okay. I can explain it. Yes. We have because our OracleChain is also a public blockchain plan, a project. So we do have a candy plan. So everyone who help us to create the OracleChain is some OCT, that is our own token, and the reward. So we call it candy plan. So actually, there are a lot of people to support our project. Our Telegram in the English is almost just like 5,000 person. Yeah, all over the world. Yeah, we thank them for to spread the idea of the OracleChain to the world. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for and so the Telegram channel is a good place to follow you guys. And where else should people look to? I know you have a website, of course, and your Steam account. Anywhere in particular people should keep in contact with OracleChain?
Yeah, I have seen you put our website to the chat rooms. Yeah, and on our main, and when you come to the website, you can see our other information, just like social media address or other things. Now we have the Telegram, Twitter, Reddit, Medium, or just actually almost every social media we have account, and we will put our dive information on it, so everyone can know OracleChain. So
it was a pleasure having you guys on. Wei and John, it was a pleasure. Kev, how about yourself? It was a great interview.
Yeah, it's really great to hear from you guys. And so then that's the thing is, OracleChain, you guys have been doing so much great work, and it's wonderful for you guys to come on and sort of kind of say hello to the all of us, really. I mean, we weren't fully aware of all the stuff you guys have been doing behind the scenes. So thank you for working so hard for developers as well, to helping build all those tools.
I just find a picture. I'm wondering how many time do we have for this live show? How many minutes do we have?
Probably about 2 more minutes.
Okay, so let me just shoot one more picture. Actually, this is a picture we captured last weekend, the day before yesterday. So we have given a presentation to about 1,000 of developers in Shanghai, and we demonstrate all the things we have done in the EOS ecosystem. So we go through a lot of stuff. So for example, we share these open source tools for them, and we tell the story about the blockchain producer, and we share our knowledge. We are going to manage our BP rewards to this 1,000 of developers in China. Actually, it's a global international conference, which is in Shanghai. And one more thing I would like to add. And so right now, EOS actually the consensus algorithm is dedicated POS, right? And the first project based on this DPoS actually is BShares. And in the BShares is the first project to actually have this similar BP candidates organization, BP candidates election. And fortunately, actually, I was involved in this BShares project in the very early. I involved in the testnet stage about in 2013. Actually, I maintained, I worked as a blockchain producer of BShares for more than 2 and 3 years. And right now, I think it's very interesting. Right now, we have another opportunity to work as a BP producer in the US ecosystem. But previously, I introduced myself to the BShares community, and right now we are OracleChain. We are a group of 20 persons actually done a lot of stuff, and we would like to also involve in the community US ecosystem and provide our efforts. So that's one thing I would like to share with this community. We have a lot of experience in this industry, and personally, I was involved in the blockchain industry actually about 7 years ago. It's a long time ago. So feel very lucky. We have done a lot of stuff, and this whole industry have so many new things in the past 7 years. And very looking forward to this US. I think it's very big things for the whole industry, US. We can have a very good future. Especially we can see the smart contract applications. We might see the first smart contract infrastructure can support 1,000, can support 100 of dApps in the first time in the history of the whole industry. Very looking forward to that.
Yeah, we are too. And it was a pleasure having you guys on, and it was awesome to learn about everything that you guys have shown us today. Thanks, guys. We appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. And thank you, Blue DS. Yeah.
Thank you for coming on. And have a nice day there in Beijing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night. Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was cool. Yeah, it's interesting how it's kind of fun too to have you just ask a question and then they have so much to present that we don't need to say anything at all. It's just that here's all the different tools we worked on, all the cool stuff that we're doing and would like to do. That was a neat interview.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
And John, we're going to do some arbitration talk now with Thomas Cox and MOTI as well.
Yeah. So I will leave the meeting. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Sounds good.
Hey
guys.
Mr. Cox and MOTI, how are you guys?
Good, thank you.
Doing great.
Thank you as always for bearing with us. Thank you for patience, and we're of course excited. We don't know a whole lot about what you guys would like to talk about as well, so we are equally excited as everybody else to find out more about arbitration and what's been happening behind the scenes. So
yeah, so as you know, I'm wearing the big hat for arbitration across a whole bunch of topics, and so governance is like voting and block producers and arbitration and the Constitution and everything else. And we realized that arbitration in particular needed a real drill in, and it needed a specialty team and some full-time love and attention. And I was very fortunate to be able to recruit a PhD in mobile electronics and wireless, a guy who started his own business, sold it, and then ran it after selling it. Got entrepreneurial skills. I've seen him on stage. He's just a sharp guy. He's a people person. He understands technology at several levels, and he's a Kenyan national living in the UK. So he's got this wonderful international perspective on things, and he was very excited about the idea of arbitration. I said, MOTI, would you please consider taking on being the hub of the arbitration effort? And he said, well, maybe. And we looked into it, and I talked him into it, and he'll have to tell us how things have come, what the status is, and whether he's regretting it or not. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. MOTI Tabulo.
Thank you, Thomas. I almost feel like I have to look behind me to see if you're actually talking about me there, But yeah, I'm super excited to be involved with EOS. I mean, I've started working with Thomas and the arbitration team and the governance team in general for the last month or so, and talk about jumping in the deep end. It's like I think, as they say, blockchain years are like dog years. I feel like I've been doing it for half a year or longer. Yeah, super excited.
You explained it well there. The dog years analogy. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, definitely.
So true too.
Yeah. So what have you guys been doing behind the scenes? What should we all know about the arbitration process? What's the latest?
Yeah, so I think what we wanted to talk about today is as we are approaching launch of EOS, there are a lot of questions around how arbitration would look like. So we've prepared a little slide deck, little presentation, just sort of go through some of the main questions the community have had around arbitration. Things like, well, what exactly is arbitration? Who can be an arbitrator? How is arbitration going to be launched? And so just wanted to give everybody sort of an insight into what the governance team is thinking about how arbitration would look like for EOS.
Sure. I think you guys can get started when you'd like. We may have some broadcasting issues, but I will try and correct it as we go along.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Just let me know if I need to repeat anything or yeah, if anything is not clear. Okay. Yeah. So I think, as everyone knows, we're building the governed blockchain, and it's just important to lay out that there are three main principles for that. Three main pillars. One is around the legislation. So really the token holders who would vote periodically on issues, feature upgrades, referendum, etc. Then the second pillar is the executive. So the block producers, people like we had the block producer from Nairobi, Kenya there, OracleChain as well. And they're really in charge of executing the code, producing blocks, and also carrying out the judicial decisions that are made by the third pillar, the arbitrators. And so the arbitrators really are tasked with resolving disputes and making any special decisions that are needed within the chain and around the chain. Yeah. So I mean, it's important to know that arbitration has existed and been around for millennia. Okay, so we're not with EOS recreating anything new. This is a business framework that's been in place for decades, millennia even. And if you look at some of the history of arbitration, going back to early man, where you'd have a dispute, you'd go to your village elders, and you'd resolve the dispute with the village elders. And then if you look at particularly, for example, in England, where I'm based, arbitration has been taking place in the merchant guilds from the early mid millennia, and so that's really set the framework for arbitration within common law and arbitration systems across the world. So if you look now, I think at the globally, arbitration is accepted in most countries as a form of dispute resolution, and we're really looking at putting that in place for EOS. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen there. Hopefully you can see that.
Actually, it's coming out really well on the screen. So if you want to start your slideshow, you can. But it looks like it okay. Actually comes out on the presentation very well.
Okay, so yeah, I'll switch in and out of the screen share just so that you can see my face as well. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, question is why do we want to build well, first of all, why do you want arbitration, and why do you want to build our own arbitration? So really with arbitration, we're looking at this as the system for solving issues. So if we have an issue that wasn't caught in the code, so we didn't think about it when we wrote the code, then arbitration helps us to solve that issue. Okay, and it also helps us to ensure that the rules are applied. So if we have all these rules around how different parties within the EOS community can behave, for example, block producers, token holders, account holders, etc., arbitration helps us ensure that everybody within the community really follows those community rules and community norms. And the final thing is it's there to protect everyone, really. So to protect us, we're all working together to bring this to bring EOSIO out, and arbitration is there as a overarching framework to protect us all. And then a question that some people may have is, well, why should we build our own arbitration system? Why don't we just use a pre-existing arbitration system? I mean, there are arbitration forums that exist around the globe. For example, here in London, we have the London Court of International Arbitration, and the various other arbitration forums, globally, and there are even arbitration forums that focus on specific markets or specific application areas. Now, the key thing is that we're doing arbitration on a blockchain, and I think if you talk to professional arbitrators right now, blockchain brings in a completely different context for them, and there are a lot of issues that are currently unexplored that blockchain brings out. So we're building our own arbitration system. We're putting in place our own arbitration system because of this new context, blockchain. And the other reason we also want to do that is to ensure that with a blockchain, of course, we're operating internationally, we're operating globally, and by putting in place our own arbitration, we're ensuring we have one jurisdiction that everybody understands and everybody knows that this is the common framework. If I have an issue with an account holder or a business that is across the globe from me, then we have this one jurisdiction, this one rule set that we both share, and we both can use to resolve our disputes if it comes to that. I mean, ideally it wouldn't, but that is life, yeah. And if it comes to that, we all have this one context, this one rule set that we can all look at and understand how to resolve the dispute based on that.
Moti, you mentioned if it comes to that, what do you foresee a case coming to arbitration for as opposed to something that may not make it to arbitration? Can you give us a couple examples?
So as an example of something that may not come to arbitration, if you think about, for example, an eBay DApp as an example, where the issue is like I sent something to another person and they didn't receive it. So that kind of issue could potentially be handled within the DApp itself, right? Rather than going to the on-chain arbitration forum. And then essentially anything with arbitration, it's anything where we didn't consider that within the smart contract. So within the smart contract, we've got the code. We also have the intent of what the contract says, and we perhaps have not considered all corner cases in writing that. And arbitration would be there to help resolve those cases.
Interesting. Thank you.
Well, now that what are we trying to look at? What are we trying to do? What do we need for an EOSIO arbitration forum? Well, what we've been looking at in the governance team is several things, specifically around arbitration, and the most important thing is firstly the basis for existence. So what is the framework for which arbitration exists within EOS? And the first thing there is incorporating arbitration in the EOSIO constitution. So Thomas is essentially in charge of that piece of ensuring that the constitution references and it essentially allows for arbitration to take place. Okay.
Moti, I just wanted to mention, if you wanted to leave the screen share on that's fine. Our pictures show right up at the top.
Oh, okay, sure. Okay, that's great. Then I'll just do that then. Yeah, thanks for letting me know. Yeah, I wasn't sure how it worked. Yeah. And so that's let's say the framework is put in the Constitution, and then the second thing that we need for arbitration to exist is really the rules for resolving arbitration disputes. And this second bit is what we've within the governance team have been working intensively on over the last month or so, putting in place the rules, looking at what is best practice from other arbitration forums across the world, and also leveraging some of the experience from experienced arbitrators. So we are working very closely with Ian Grigg and Eva Stowe, who are helping us on that. And yeah, putting that in place within the context of a blockchain. So those are currently being drafted. We are hoping to release that to the community. That's probably next week. We're currently reviewing that within the team. But as soon as that's ready to go, then we'll be releasing it out to the community for their views and their comments, in a similar way that Thomas has done for the Constitution. Okay. So here at the end, hopefully, of this exercise, we'll have the rules for arbitration to take place. And then the second thing that we need is, of course, the people who are going to run arbitration. Okay, so we'll need arbitrators, people to manage cases, people to organize that. We'll also need people who will train potential arbitrators. Okay, and with these two components, then we hope we will have a framework for an EOSIO arbitration forum. Okay. And so in the next couple of slides, I'll talk a little bit more about how we're going to get the people, how we're going to select arbitrators, etc. So so going back, looking at the first thing, the basis for existence. So the governance team will propose a set of arbitration rules and a set of arbitration guidelines. But this is a community project, and that is essentially what the governance team can do: propose a rule set, and then it will be up to the community to debate that and effectively vote on whether they want to accept these arbitration rules. So one way that this may happen is similar to the process that is going to take place with the Constitution. They will be at the launch of the EOSIO mainnet be a default constitution, which will reference a default arbitration forum that will have a basic set of arbitration rules and also a proposed set of core arbitrators. And then it will be up to the community to propose either modifications to the arbitration rules or a completely different arbitration rule set or completely different arbitration forum. And then it will be up to token holders to vote on that and decide whether they choose to accept which arbitration forum they choose to accept. And in a similar process to the Constitution, as in a similar process to the Constitution, the arbitration forum will be promoted from the default forum to the forum which the community elects to go ahead with. Yeah. Okay, Thomas, did you have anything to add on that voting process?
Yeah, it's right now we're really focused on putting together something that can be distributed with the software, so that if the community chooses to implement out of the box exactly as it shows up in GitHub, it ought to work, and the community is free to replace anything and everything because that's how open source works. And in the case of arbitration, it's really quite elaborate because it's not like a constitution, which I managed to fit the main core constitution on one page. We're talking here about people and training and a handbook, and it's really elaborate and quite daunting. And I'm astonished at how far along the team has gotten so quickly in putting together a really solid offer that I think is quite compelling. And I'm personally hopeful that the token holders will ratify the selections that MOTI and the rest of the team have assembled once they've had a chance to see it. But yeah, this is this wonderful, interesting bootstrap process where, block one is working hard to provide defaults. The community has to self-organize and decide. I'm sure there's going to be some ratification process, and there's always the potential to amend. So even if we think it's great and then it turns out to be less than great, okay, then we'll fix it. And we actually have a path by which the community can fix things. And when I read something like, the Bitcoin wars or, the Ethereum, they have an EIP, which is an Ethereum improvement proposal, number 867 and number 999, where they're just struggling. And I feel so grateful that we've learned so much from other people, that we've got a clear process for having a clear process, that we can come together and have clear decisions clearly made with rules that can be modified and that have legitimacy because they've been ratified and because we've got a voting and ratification process to begin with. So this is so exciting to be, doing our humble best to create a new thing, knowing that we can't foresee the future and that we can't be perfect because we're just humans, but we have to do our best. And I'm thrilled at the work that MOTI and his team have pulled together in such a short time.
Thomas, where can we find more information about this?
I think MOTI published on Steemit.
That was on EOS Go. Yeah.
On EOS Go. Fine outlet. Highly recommended.
Good guys are here.
Yes.
They're not bad.
That's right.
So I believe there's an arbitration section in the forums, and MOTI's got in there the guidelines and principles behind the design, and then a design document, and I think more documents may be coming out shortly.
Yeah.
And pretty strong commitment to transparency. So I think we're going to see the handbook will be published most likely, and I know that the arbitrators, once the forum is up, they kind of need to run their own show. They need to, they can't be controlled by me or him or the token holders. They've got to be self-organizing. And at the same time, they owe a real duty to the chain to be transparent. So it'll be interesting how that unfolds.
How does the community accept this? They just do? They just all agree somehow?
I think that the community is kind of delighted and bemused that we've come so far so quickly, and they're glad to see that it's shaping up. And I think we've gone out of our way to say, okay, now here's where it came from, and here's the source, and here's the UN arbitration, international trade arbitration rule set, and here's the International Center for Dispute Resolution rules, and here's a link to go read it, and here's how we're doing it. And we did 2 online orientations, and then we published the video of the orientation recording. So kind of like everything else we've done on the governance side, we've done our utmost to say, here's what we plan to do. Now here's us doing it. Okay, here's what we just did. Feedback. And I think most people are content to see it unfold in a really orderly, thoughtful way. And while in the Constitution, people are extremely sensitive, like Article 1 is the one that's gotten the most comments on no lying. But arbitration, while it might seem more fiddly, in some ways it's just, people get it that arbitration has been done for millennia. It's been done in the current way for decades. There's very little that's novel on a blockchain other than maybe how we give notice. And so I think we've, knock on wood, we've done a decent job of preparing the community and being transparent in our operations. So there hasn't been much fear, uncertainty, or doubt. And I think if we continue to do such a good job, and if MOTI and his team continue to be transparent and open as I expect they will, we'll continue to have good buy-in. And I'm hopeful for ratification.
Speaking of uncertainty and doubt, I believe we had a question earlier on from BlockSmith regarding any rules or regulations that govern a arbitrator to make sure that they don't have personal investments or they're not on a payroll of on a payroll of another company.
I know the answer to this one. I'm going to jump in front of MOTI and answer this one. Just as in not on the blockchain, you also don't want to go into arbitration and find out that your opponent has gotten an arbitrator that's his brother-in-law. It's like, of course not. Of course you want independence. And that's why in the UN rules and in the ICDR rule set, they both say early on, as soon as the appointing authority names a particular arbitrator, both parties can raise objection to the potential for independence, and the individual arbitrator has to be independent and certify that they are. And if it turns out later that they're not only does that undermine the ruling, it also puts them personally in jeopardy. They can be in big trouble if they were to conceal some sort of personal stake they had in the outcome of a ruling. Arbitrators have to be independent, and they have to be seen to be independent. And if you can't do that, you mustn't be an arbitrator.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, there's more.
Yeah, there's more. Wait, there's more. So it's actually speaking to your point there. I mean, how were arbitrators selected, which is, I think, a question that a lot of people have been wondering. There's this component of a key part of the software, and how exactly are people going to be selected. So one thing, as you've asked, Blue Jays, and as Thomas has said, is a key criteria is you have to be independent, and there has to be no conflict of interest in when an arbitrator is ruling on a case, because as Thomas said, that will completely undermine that ruling later on if somebody were to discover that conflict, and that would be grounds for raising an objection. And then other criteria that we're looking at is aptitude. So arbitration, to be an arbitrator is quite a involved and intense task, and you do need an aptitude for reading, reviewing evidence, reviewing people's claims, and reviewing, understanding the context of their claims, understanding the rules and how they apply to that claim. And yeah, so people need an aptitude to be able to go through that volume of work, and then at the end write come up with a well-reasoned, well-thought-out, very logical ruling that can stand the test of scrutiny from parties with a vested interest, right? And then the third thing is commitment to both training and service. So with what we're looking at right now is having arbitration open to a wide variety of parties. People can be nominated to be arbitrators, and it's not absolutely a given that you need to be a professional arbitrator. I mean, there will be space for professional arbitrators, but it's not a given that you must be a professional arbitrator. The idea is that the arbitration forum would give training with either arbitration principles with relevant case histories, or blockchain principles if somebody already is familiar with arbitration in the off-chain world. And finally, and something which is quite important and or essentially very important, and Thomas alluded to this a little bit, is that arbitrators will need to rule in their name. Okay, so at the end, once they make a ruling, it would be, I so-and-so rule that this is the result of this dispute, and not everybody is comfortable with that. So so people should be aware that this is the standard of things that will be expected of an arbitrator. Yeah. And the last thing is, I mean, as Thomas has said, the arbitration forum is really going to be a self-governing body. So even though we think these are a good criteria, at the end, the arbitrators in the forum are the ones who will be making that decision, and they will be the ones who will essentially be selecting the people who will meet the criteria, right, to be an arbitrator on EOS.
I'd like to share something on screen as well, if I may.
Sure.
Moti, if you don't mind turning yours off real quick, and I'll find mine. So this is an example of a form of selection report. This isn't the one that would necessarily be used by any particular arbitration forum, but it's the kind of instrument that we often see used for pretty rigorous selection processes. This actually happens to be one that I used to not only use but even sell, although I'm not selling it, so like no conflict here. And what you see here is what the instrument does is it rates the person on 9 behavioral traits, not personality, behavior, in terms of things like pacing. Are they fast moving? How assertive are they? Are they very sociable, reserved or outgoing? And then these colored bars would indicate, the really best people in this role. Let's say it's arbitrators. This is actually on screen. This is analysts, which is slightly different than arbitrators. I think we want to come up with our own model specifically for what a good arbitrator is. And then when the person tests, their initial show up is where they are compared to the bars, and you'll see that this TC person is a little too assertive to be, a little too forceful to be inside the band here, and a little too quick to decide maybe in the decisiveness, a little too bold.
He's also a party animal, it looks like.
Total party animal, you see. He's way down here in the introvert side, and leans a little intuitive, and we want a little more factual basis. And so that person is an 86% fit, and that would be one of many criteria that you would use. But as you see, the point of sharing this is to say that a good forum can do rigorous selection using a variety of instruments, including very good commercial things like what I just showed you, as well as their own interview criteria, things like domain knowledge, things like geographic location, knowledge of English, since a lot of our decisions will have to be in English because a lot of our governing documents are for the default forum. And so the field is wide open for a very rigorous process to find excellent people, as well as to then give them excellent training and to put them through a process where it's not as an apprentice, essentially, they do all the work of gathering the information and sitting in and reading everything and asking for what they need and writing a decision, which then gets reviewed by somebody else, and the other person's name goes on it. And you have to do that multiple times before you're going to be, okay, you've earned your wings, you can fly solo now. And what's been found in other forums is a lot of people can go all that distance and do all the learning, and when it comes to signing their own name, suddenly they get really shy. And it's really hard to put your own name on a decision, and some people wash out at that phase. And if that's if we have to go through enough people to weed those folks out and let them fail and replace them with other people, that's what we'll do in order to create the kind of forum that gives people a sense of safety and finality and certainty, that the governing documents will be applied. They'll be applied fairly. They'll be applied consistently. They'll be applied in a very thoughtful way. And that's what a governed blockchain is that, it's not like, oh, the code is the law. Oh, look, $300 million worth of ethers stuck in a wallet. Oops. Oh, well, the code's the law. We're not going to do that. And yeah, this is a lot of work to create an arbitration forum that's going to be good for the entire blockchain globally. My gosh. But that's what we have to do to take this next step of evolution in blockchain technology, to create an environment where people can build small businesses that thrive, and they can have some confidence that it's not the code that's the law, it's the law that's the law, and that the intention of the contract will prevail. And that's what we're doing, all the work we have to do to achieve that promise and to give the community the pieces that are needed to fulfill that promise. So I'm tremendously excited by this.
Yeah, so am I. This is amazing. I think that you guys are really bringing that last piece of the puzzle to make this, that, like Thomas said, make it a rule of law blockchain and give that safety and security to people who want to operate on this.
Are there more slides we should see?
There's just the last slide, which is just to give people a sense of how arbitration might work. I think if people have been through arbitration, this is not new for them, but for some of the people who have never experienced arbitration, just to give it an insight. So I'll just share that last screen and then. Okay, so a typical process for how arbitration may work is in the first stage, the claimant files a dispute, so alleging or saying that something has untoward has happened. That would go to the EOSIO arbitration forum, who would then appoint an arbitrator. So the arbitrator that's appointed may, there'll be a variety of different factors around perhaps the application of the business, the kind of business that the claimant is working in. So perhaps in the longer run, we may have arbitrators that specialize in certain DApps. So somebody raises a dispute from a certain DApp business, then that arbitrator would be preferred to rule on that case. Or it could be perhaps a language, so somebody who's particularly from one particular geography, and that's where the claimant and perhaps respondent are coming from. So yeah, different factors would factor into how an arbitrator is appointed. Once the arbitrator is appointed, then the case is reviewed. The arbitrator would hear both parties. We're leaning towards a written process where people would essentially write in their claims, provide the documentary evidence, etc., which the arbitrator would review. They would then go away, think about it. Maybe they need to call expert witnesses in some cases if they don't have that expertise, and then they would evaluate all of that evidence and make a ruling. And once they've made a ruling, then in the interest of transparency, some or all of that ruling would be made available. So at least we would hope at least a summary of the facts, a logic of the rules that were taken into account when coming to a decision, the logic of the decision, and then the resolution of how the case is resolved, and finally signed off by arbitrator so and so. So that at that stage, that's delivered, and then that gets handed off for execution. So in this case, the execution would perhaps be a message that's sent to the block producers saying that this is signed by arbitrator so-and-so from the EOSIO arbitration forum, and this is the remedy that you must apply. And then it would be the block producers who would then go and make sure that they check that yes, this is a valid arbitrator. It looks like it's a valid ruling because it's in the format of that we expect that it's a ruling comes from, and we would then, as a block producer, apply that ruling. Okay, and then there's the option, well, not the option, but in case, let's say, the claimant or the respondent disagrees with the ruling, they do have the opportunity to to essentially put in another dispute, which would take the form of an appeal. So then they could, if they let's say there was something that was let's say a conflict of interest or gross incompetence on the arbitrator, those could be grounds for an appeal.
Wow.
And yeah, so that's just generally, let's say, an overview of how the process might work. Yeah, and as we'll be giving more details around this and the whole rule set in the coming weeks.
Will there be levels of arbitrators? Talk about different levels of courts. You work your way up the system. Will it be like a higher established arbitrator?
Well, there's the obvious one that the whole blockchain that we're creating is very friendly to nesting. And levels of focus. So a particular DApp is expected to name its own arbitration forum that or any contract, anybody who writes a smart contract will say disputes arising in this contract will be heard, over there, and they can name their own dispute forum. And it could be one specific to a domain. It could be one that exists out in the outside world, whatever. If the two people agree, super, you're done. If that falls apart, then it goes out to the outer layer. And again, because things can be nested 3, 4, 5 levels deep, you might find that disputes have to roll outward to whichever level of nesting encompasses all of the pieces. And what you're seeing here is the one that's the entire chain. It catches anything that isn't caught previously. If you'll forgive me, I have a 5:15 stop here on the Pacific time zone. I need to run, but I'm sure MOTI can answer any remaining questions. Thank you all for having me on.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you. And MOTI, I'm sure so you're in the UK. It must be about 1 in the morning for you.
Yeah, it's a late day.
Okay. Well, we don't want to keep you too much. I mean, your presentation was great, and thank you. And I didn't realize you were so heavily involved with the arbitration process. It's awesome that they brought in some true experts to help us with this, because, I mean, you said it as well. I mean, blockchain, there's so many different disciplines. There's economics and game theory, and of course now we have governance as well. And so we're seeing such amazing experts come in and help us out with this. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where we go with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say thanks, MOTI, for coming on, and we also appreciate keeping us involved in the posts that you make on the EOS Go forums. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and absolutely appreciate the work you guys are doing. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, MOTI.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Well, like usual, Blue Jays, I've just learned a whole lot of new things. Need to go think about it for a little while. And what did you gain from the talk, from the presentation?
Yeah, I guess this is the first time I'm seeing a maturity in the processes that are going to be on a blockchain. I mean, I think it's a novel concept. It's pretty new in the industry, and to be able to have a transaction go through, or something go through this blockchain, and then it be able to be questioned if it was the right thing or not. For there to be some type of rule of law, I think is going to give people a lot of confidence in EOS and operating on EOS, being able to use EOS because they know that if they get scammed or anything else, that there will be some sort of rules that will be able to be there to support them.
Absolutely. And the way that Thomas puts it, I think resonates with me as well. He says that the governance layer of a blockchain is one of the most important things to having businesses adopt the blockchain, right? Because the blockchain doesn't stop, nothing ends. It just keeps on going and going. And if there's no way to go back and say, wait a second, that was a mistake, we need to fix that, then of course no business wants to build on that, because they may lose all kinds of money, like as we've already seen multiple times on Ethereum and other blockchains. To me, this is one of the great, and I think he's already said it himself, but this is one of the great obstacles to why we have not seen large-scale adoption up to this point. And as we all know, usually it's a top-down type of effect where businesses will build something that's amazing, some kind of great dApp or app for users, and then they'll bring lots of users into the platform. People will start to familiarize themselves with what blockchain is all about, and they'll fall in love with it, and then we gain that mass adoption we all talk about.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily happen from a grassroots level. It hasn't so far, so we're trying a different route this time.
And of course, as Thomas mentioned before, each transaction will have a constitution ID in there, so that you can always go back and say, okay, when this transaction was made, this constitution was agreed upon. So,
right. So you're bound by constitution when you sign the transaction at that particular moment. Then yes, you are. Whatever the constitution was at that particular time. Of course, it can change over time. So
yes,
it's all very interesting. It's almost hard to wrap your mind around because it's so much different from a regular court system. But there are so many aspects that are the same. And Thomas has also said in the past, this is about property only. It's not like you can commit murder on the blockchain, But so it's I guess there's just a lot to learn still. But I thought the presentation revealed quite a lot that I did not fully expect.
Interesting. And as they mentioned, the resources are on the EOS Go forums. So head over to the arbitration section there, and you can find out more.
Yeah, it's a great post on the arbitration section of the forums. And actually, that part was harder to find. We've now put that category right on the front page. So if you scroll down, you'll see a category that says arbitration work process and arbitrator's forum as well. There's two separate categories. So you can go in there. MOTI's post is in there. It's excellent. It's received a lot of views, and you can read all about it if you'd like. You ready for the news?
Let's do those news.
All right, the news. The biggest news of the week. You ready? Dawn 4.0. Here we go. Let's dive right in. It's supposedly, the way Dan has put it, Dawn 4.0 is about the closest thing, of course, that we're going to see to EOSIO 1.0, which is mainnet software launch in June. He released this on Friday. Dan did. Came out late on Friday on EST. What were some of your primary takeaways there, Blue Jays, if we look at the Dawn 4.0 release?
Well, first off, it was just the amount of code that went into this. I think Dan's post mentioned that 43 authors pushed 818 commits to GitHub, and that put this software as the top 8 most active C++ projects on GitHub in the past month. So they've pushed a lot of code in, and particularly I was interested in the market based RAM allocation model. And a lot of interest has come from that, because again, it's another market that people can sort of speculate on, which he does mention in the Medium post about how he's going to minimize speculation, because with that RAM being out there, and of course RAM is a precious resource, and programmers are going to need RAM, and DApp developers are going to need RAM. You're going to have quotas of RAM that you're going to be able to use, and therefore you're going to be rationing them out at, for example, we have it here, almost 1,800 thousandths of dollars per byte, assuming a $20 token. So RAM is, of course, a precious resource. You don't want to keep RAM in the forefront of memory, because it uses that's going to be a precious resource that dApps are not going to have too much of. So therefore, there's going to be a market created for basically people wanting to trade RAM price for profit. So there was that part there, and I think that's one of the most interesting parts of the announcement for me. What about you, Kev? What did you think?
You dove right into the most interesting part would be the RAM allocation, I think, and there were a couple parts too that really impressed me. When it comes to smart contract developers using RAM, it's a precious resource because it's consumed by the database records you store. So basically, folks who are developing smart contracts, you want to make sure you're not storing all of your information right in the memory database, because it is such a precious resource. And they've now implemented a 1% fee to minimize speculation on the RAM market. So what people would want to do is they'd want to buy low and sell high, right, on RAM. And so they'd be trying to do that a lot. We don't necessarily want that, because then they might be taking away RAM from the developers who need that. And so so Dan and company have implemented a 1% fee on the trading, buying, and selling both. So when you buy some RAM, you spend 1% fee, and then when you also sell it later on, you spend another 1% for 2% total. And that actually it gets burned, so that it sort of pays for block producers if there is enough volume of RAM trade in a year, which is something he mentioned in the post. And so therefore, EOS could even become deflationary if RAM trading is rampant. Stupid, bad joke.
Yeah.
And then
I just got that.
It just came to me, so I'm not going to pretend like I thought of it ahead of time. But anyway, so that RAM trading rampant, and then say people decide to burn the inflation from the worker proposal as well, you could have EOS being a deflationary token. I'm not saying that will happen, but it certainly could become possible with this new model. Very interesting. It certainly sparked a lot of debate and conversation in the block producers chat. As you said, Blue Jays, RAM is very expensive on EOSIO. It's not something, you can go out and buy a $20 gigabyte stick. But with EOSIO, you're spending like $20,000 or something, way more than that even, to get the same amount of RAM. I think it's more like 20 million or something ridiculous. So it's, of course, something that we need Moore's Law to help us catch up a little bit, and also when the price of the token goes up and then the block producer competition gets more competitive and they're able to buy more RAM, maybe that price will drop significantly. Let's hope, right?
Yeah.
So, we'll see. That was certainly interesting. And of course, we should go to, what else did you find that really caught your eye? I was thinking that the name squatting was
interesting. I guess it's going to be like a mad rush to get names, I'm guessing. And yeah, it is what it is. So, I mean, it's it's going to be at least EOS is going to have those friendly names. We're not going to have these 0x blah 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 and 32 characters. No, we're going to have a 12 character name, which is a human readable name. So
yeah, and Dan sort of talked about how their vision for blockchains is to separate the concept of accounts from identity, and to establish. So it's more like the name would be a vanity license plate, is the way he put it, so that's easy to remember. But actually, your real account may still be a long string of something, of integers and digits and so on, and that way it's more secure, right? Also, I found the part about vote decay very interesting as well. So you need to re-vote for your vote to have maximum impact. When you're voting for block producers, you need to vote every single week. You need to refresh your vote every single week. And he also put it in the note saying that he is asking, or he hopes that folks will not just develop some kind of bot that will vote for you, because that defeats the whole purpose. And the reason for the voting every single week is to help keep people interested in the system and researching their block producers and always understanding what the best possible way to keep the chain healthy is, right? So block producers could add a whole bunch of new RAM on their stack, and you may not know about it unless you are voting every single week, and then you keep up with the latest news. And you go, oh, wow, those guys, they really have upgraded their stuff. I need to vote for them now because I want a stronger chain and I want cheaper RAM. So that was kind of in place of a term limit that has also been floated around as an idea, where a block producer would say, be kind of like a president in the United States, for example, where they don't have a certain term limit where they could be voted in and then they get kicked right out automatically. This is in place of that. So that way it keeps the voters more interested and invested in the long term. And if you don't vote every single week, then your vote power decays over time for as long as a year. It's a half-life of a year, I should say, voting influence. So,
yeah,
certainly a bunch of interesting stuff. And then the light client. Go ahead, there, Blue Jays.
There's interesting, as we covered before, the inter-blockchain communication has been mentioned. Also, the roadmap for parallelism, meaning when EOSIO launches, it's going to be single-threaded, but it will. There is a path to parallel and multi-threaded, which is just going to explode the amount of transactions per second. So take a little read into that Medium post and definitely dig into it.
Yeah, and he even talks about the producer pay. Block producer pay is capped at 1%. That is confirmed. And you also are rewarded based on how many votes you have. The block producers are, that is. So a lot of folks who watch the show are block producers, so that's why I say we. And EOSCO, again, we're not running for block producer, but a lot of folks are. So anyway, the producer pay is capped, and it is the reason. I've heard this question a couple times, and it's been around for a little while, but the reason they are keeping folks earning more EOS for being higher ranked is because they want block producers to always be campaigning and working for the chain, right? So if you got number 6 slot, for example, they don't want you just sitting back and going, well, number 6, I won't get voted out. There's no way, to take a long time, right? No, they want you to always be working, trying to work your way up the chain, get more votes. And that way, if you get more votes, you are paid higher or more, I should say. So you can afford your bills more readily. So that is the idea behind that. And yeah, as you said, Blue Jays, everybody should go back and read this. There's a lot of it. Most folks are not going to understand every single word of it. I don't either. But a lot of it is very interesting. And of course, this is one of those things where if you are a regular voter, it's nice to know this kind of stuff going forward, because the updates will never stop coming.
Right.
So what other interesting news did you see this week there, Blue Jays?
So just to wrap up that last one, there's a lot of confusion. DOM 4.0 has not released yet. It is scheduled to be released this Friday.
The testnet, yep. You referring to the Block 1 testnet or the actual code itself?
Oh, the actual code itself, yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's off on a Slim branch right now, I think they said, but they're pushing it to master this Friday is what I read.
Okay.
Something like that, yeah. So in terms of news for the week, I mean, it was pretty lean, really. Just the big code push. Of course, we could sit here and talk about price, but we don't do that really on our goal. So let's go to meetups. You want to talk about some meetups there, Blue Jays?
Yes. So it looks like there was a meetup today in Montreal. So that's the blockchain, EOS, and Go. I believe this was put on by EOS Canada. I'm not 100% sure.
I think you're right. Yeah, it might even be going on right this moment.
Yeah. Good luck, guys.
Yeah, I'm sure you're having a great time watching this live right on the big screen. Hello. And so they were having a Go language. It was EOS and Go, I believe, was the name of their meetup, not related to us. Go is a programming language they were looking to implement and encourage more developers to work with EOS. So it was probably a very small meetup. I've heard before that anyone who's tried to put on developer-focused meetups, they end up with a smaller crowd. Understandable.
Yep.
A lot of EOS fans are not necessarily hardcore developers. So hopefully they're learning a lot, though, working together. And maybe there's some developers who didn't know much about EOS and are now hooked. That seems to happen from what I've seen.
Yes.
Also, we mentioned, let's talk about the Seattle meetup. It's about 24 hours from now, or maybe it's 25 hours, and they're put on by Blockgenic. And actually our very own there, Thomas Cox, not our very own, but the entire blockchain's very own Thomas Cox, the entire world's very own. He will be up there in person, and he's going to be speaking, of course. And also there's going to be a Zoom link live, basically a live show. You can tune in and watch it as it happens, which is pretty cool with the meetup. So Thomas Cox will be up there. That is about 25 hours. It looks like it's Seattle time. It's going to be 6:30 Pacific Central Time, which is 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, so it is about 25 hours from now, which is 8:30 Eastern Standard Time on Monday. So, yeah, check that out.
And I believe there was a really big meetup last week from EOS London, which was put on by EOS 42, as well as some other supporters there. They looked like they had a blast over there and a huge turnout. So there's a link. We will post it in the chat if you guys want to see that. Did you hear anything from that, Kevin?
Well, yeah, they put out a live stream link, and the quality wasn't great because the audio was hard to hear, but they actually had a professional crew also filming it, and they have been trickling those videos out as they've been edited.
I see.
And so we just saw the Warbly video just came out, and they have the Paolo from Bitfinex also was the keynote, and his video is soon to come out. They're trying to fix something on that before they release it. So if you would like to go back there, and of course I think there were maybe 10 or more block producer candidates representing there, and they either spoke or they were on video or all sorts of other things. So London, they have a huge EOS scene out there. They always have ever since last fall. They've been having huge meetups.
Mm-hmm.
So
seems like so long ago now that they were in London, and they also had that, I believe it was Seoul or Hong Kong back then, way back in January.
Yeah, that might have been Seoul.
Okay.
I think London was, I don't remember where.
London might have been like around
October.
Yeah.
November. Something. Yep. That was back when the price was, down in the dumps, but they were going strong. Yeah, they had the biggest meetup for a long time, but yeah.
And of course, Kev, we got the Tulip Conference coming up soon.
Yes, we always mention the Tulip Conference. Of course, we are now going. That's new news for us and for everybody. But also, the Tulip Conference is kind of it's like an EOS conference almost in many ways. It is blockchain generic, I should say, but EOS is having a huge presence there. There will be multiple block producer candidates. We're going to have Nathan James with Scatter is also speaking. Thomas Cox will speak, of course, and David Moss will also speak. He's the CEO of TrueBlock, I think formerly with Block One, but he decided to spin off, and I believe, don't know entirely. Hopefully, we'll learn a little bit more at the conference.
Yes,
about his projects. So it is, if you are in the San Francisco area, it's tulipconf.com. It's tulip, just like the flower, CONF.com. If you'd like to check it out, it looks like it's multi-day meetup event, so it'll be a lot of fun. Not a meetup, I should say. It's a full-blown conference.
Yeah, and I believe that's the 7th to the 9th, June 7th to the 9th.
June 7th to 9th. Yeah, and someone was it Craig earlier? He's talking about how it should be a party at that point, right?
Yeah,
Chain should be up. Everybody's
chain is up. It should be a disco. Not that I know what the disco is, but
let's coin a new term right now. You ready? Chain is up, champagne is in. Let's party.
Yeah.
That's like Thomas Cox wrote in his article about the Dom Perignon.
Yep.
Popping the champagne.
I couldn't tell the difference between Dom Perignon and a regular champagne. I'm not that into champagne, so.
You're not as high class as Thomas Cox.
Who would have guessed?
Well said, sir. I never would have myself. No. So meetups. That's about all I can see for now. Of course, if you ever have a meetup that you'd like mentioned on the show, please let us know on the forums or on the. We also do the bp.eosgo.io, which is a block producer listing. You can put your meetup on there. All the meetups show up, and we of course will find it on there and mention it on the show. We should also mention, I think it's in Toronto area. There's a bunch of meetups coming up pretty soon, right? In the next couple weeks.
Yeah, in the next couple weeks or so. I believe it's the 17th, May 17th.
Yeah, it's a whole weekend when Thomas Cox, of course, is there. He's doing 3 in a row, I believe. One at Waterloo and then 2 others in Toronto. Yeah,
they're on the May 17th. They're going to Waterloo, which is the Friday, and then in the afternoon, and then they'll go to the University of Toronto or do something downtown Toronto, and then the next morning, Saturday morning, they will do York University.
Gotcha. Yeah, and those meetups are all on the portal on the bp.eosgo.io. Those are put on by EOS Nation. So if you'd like to reach out to those guys to learn more and to attend one of those meetups, you should.
Yes. It sounds like it'll be fun. Yes.
2 weeks before launch. I mean, it'll be pretty awesome. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts of the week, Blue Jays?
I was just like watching everyone be in awe of the Dawn 4.0 announcement and all the stuff that was in there. I think the team, the Block One team, just continues to blow away people with all the stuff that they're jam packing in there, and just how progress has been being made leading up to the end of this month and the beginning of next month. So I just think they're just delivering like crazy, and then you just know that this is going to be it's just gonna be awesome at the end of this month. So
and on and forever, I think personally. Of course, you know me, the biggest fan, but yeah, I mean, you nailed it. And Dan came on and he did a huge Q&A on Friday and Saturday and Sunday. I mean, he's been on all weekend on Telegram, just answering questions after the 4.0 release. He clarified a lot about the RAM, 1% fee for the RAM that we just talked about, and about how it will help pay for the block producer candidates and why the change was made and so on and so forth. So he just answered endless questions. Of course, that's what I admire about Dan and about the team, and even about all the block producer candidates, the people working in EOS. It's 24/7, right? For everybody. It's a passion project at this point. It's not just people who are hoping to be a part of something. It's people who are determined to make something.
Yes.
And that to me speaks the most. That's what makes this community so great. You heard it from Craig earlier on EOS BlockSmith. You know, it's just the most incredible experience I think I've ever been a part of. So.
Yep. And for ourselves personally, Kev, I think we've been asked, I think, a couple of times in Thomas's article about the 15% needed. He has like a fictional story there about an account, and then he includes us as doing a live stream. So I mean, I think you and I have thought about that, and we've also gotten some requests from the community. So we will probably be doing our best to put to during the launch time to be on air as much as possible, giving updates.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. We don't have that all finalized yet. And just like a lot of things, like for example, voting for block producers, the actual portal and what that might look like, not finalized yet, still being built. So a lot of things will change and happen going up to launch. If you'd like to stay updated, of course, we do these bi-weekly what the launch may look like videos. So you can catch up with us there if you'd like to learn more about what you need to do during the launch. If you need to register your tokens, or you need to vote for block producers, or how you do it. All that information we'll give as it comes up. And of course, the live stream info we'll always share on EOS Radio, of course, and whatever comes up as well. So keep up with us, and we'll try to help you guys out as much as we can. Sure. And of course, follow the Twitter, and we have that EOS community updates channel on Telegram. People have asked before. I see that a lot, and they're saying, well, how do I keep up with EOS more easily? Well, we offer this channel where nobody else can speak. It's just broadcasts of the latest news. So if you'd like that information, it's a little easier to keep up with. And anything else people should know there, Blue Jays?
So yeah, you mentioned the Twitter, and I think that's it. Just go to the forums and interact with others. And if you're new to the community, just that's a great resource to get updated. And check out the Getting Started posts. And yeah, that's it. That's it for me.
Me as well, Blue Jays. Thank you, and we'll see you next week. And go EOS.
Go EOS. Have a good week, everybody. Bye.